Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Interesting People of Earth, your digital campfire for meaningful dialogue about life, purpose, and all the things that make us human. Today, we have a really special guest, an amazing guest, and for many reasons. One, because she was the first guest recording episode that I did, actually, the first day that I did my first episode. Or the day that I did my first episode, I also recorded for your podcast, Deep Talk Pod. Um, and the reason I say that Madison is amazing is because from the moment that we've met each other, you have poured so much into me. You have tried to give me advice. Like you've been doing this for longer and you've just been, I mean, even today, even with today's episode, you've been so gracious. And I just have to say that people like you are few and far in between. You're just a lovely person. I'm really grateful that I met you, and I'm really grateful that you invited me on your podcast. So, at the risk of gushing, I will just go into your actual intro. This is Madison Brandt, the host of Deep Talk Pod, a podcast exploring mental health via deep and meaningful conversations with guests. Madison started this podcast about 7 years ago, but it's gone through various iterations as she's discovered herself and her purpose through it. I will let you talk more about that journey, Madison. Madison is from Minnesota, born and raised, and in between college, between Minnesota and New York, was probably like all of us, trying to discover who she was and what she truly wanted out of life. I will say personally that I'm very happy that it led you here. So, welcome, Madison. I will give you the floor to talk a bit more about yourself. Um, but let's first talk with Deep Talk Pod. Like, how did you decide to start that? And what motivated you? What point of your life were you in that you decided to start this beautiful venture?
Yeah, I started this podcast so long ago, and I started with such a different intent than what it is now. It's had like you said, so many iterations, but originally I started it because the whole story, it's so long, but I went to school in New York City because I was pursuing my dream to be a makeup artist, and I feel like any story, it starts off so different than how it
Yeah.
ends and where you end up.
Mhm.
But yeah, I went out to a school in New York City to pursue being a makeup artist. And when I was out there, I was really, really struggling mentally. I think being away from home for the first time at 18
Yeah.
in a very different place than the Midwest is such a different vibe than New York City. Like it could not be more different. And so when I got there, it just like hit me. I was like, I'm in a new place. I'm alone. Like this dream that I've always wanted to be like a celebrity magazine, fashion week makeup artist. Like I don't know if I can pursue that because being here feels so wrong. Like it was
Yeah.
just such a harsh city and I was just really struggling and we can go more into that later. But I started a podcast out there because my mom, I would have many conversations with her when I was in New York about how I was struggling. And
Mhm.
she had me call a few different of like her kids, her friends' kids about
Mhm.
like their stories. And I found so much relief of like listening to kids and their stories of transferring schools and listening to people's struggles with mental health.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like it feels one so good to talk to other people. And so with that, I also was like, I need to figure out a different career. I was like in a crisis. I was like, I'm here for 3 months. Like I'm here from like whatever the first semester of school, like September to December. I'm gonna push through, but during this time, I need to figure out what I'm doing next. So I decided I was gonna transfer back to school in Minnesota, at
Mhm.
home and just be near family as I was kind of like recovering from mental health. But when I was out there, I was like, I need to figure out can I swear? What the fuck I am doing.
Yeah.
It was like my life because it was like
Yeah.
I literally call it a quarter life crisis. Like when you've planned, not kidding, since I was like 5 years old, it's all I wanted to do. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're like, I want this, but my mental health is more of a problem. I
Yeah.
can't do this. I was like, I need to figure out what I'm doing next. So I started a podcast because I wanted to figure out like what to do next. And I was like, I know I want to be creative. I'm in New York pursuing makeup.
Mhm.
Like that's
Mhm.
not what anyone in my school is doing. Obviously, I need to be doing something creative.
Yeah.
But I started it to like be able to reach out to people who are doing creative things and figuring out what they were doing with their life, and hopefully
Yeah.
being able to like hear their stories, because like that had soothed me so much, and I was like, maybe from finding other people who are like me in other worlds and
Mhm.
hearing their stories of maybe feeling different or how they found this creative career that suited them, because I needed to find one that suited me and my mental health. Maybe
Yeah.
that would soothe me. And just from starting that and have talking to so many amazing people, um, I like felt so much less alone,
Mhm.
that there were other people like me taking different paths. A lot of them were so sweet too. I could tell I was struggling, and they were like, "You got this. Like, it's you're not gonna be like depressed forever. Like, here are some like they gave me kind of like life advice too." So I was just talking to like amazing people who gave
Yeah.
me hope for other futures, who gave me a lot of ideas about creative careers I could do, and also just like found some sweet mentors along the way that made me just not feel like I was going to fail at life and be sad forever. And it just, I'm so thankful for all of them. But yeah, I while I was doing it, I realized that this was something you could do,
Mm.
that podcasting and coaching and uh, that whole world was, a lot of the people I interviewed were doing
Yeah.
this too, and coaches. And uh, so this stayed, and it transferred from being more creative, career focused to, you know, more self-development, because as I continued it, I realized that like this was an extension of me. It was an
Yeah.
extension of what I wanted to talk about, what I was growing through, how I could support other people through that, and ultimately how I could use this to help other people who felt how I did when I was 18, and be a space to talk about all the things that I could not find people talking about, like
Yeah.
really vulnerably being like, I'm struggling. And um yeah, so now it's just like a space to have deep, meaningful conversations with people who I feel like I see, and I'm like, just like you, that I'm like, I see and like I resonate. And I feel like if that extension of me is on there, people will relate to maybe what I feel, because I'm having a lot of people on who are similar or extensions of kind of where I'm at.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a place for people to come feel at home and to feel like, I've never heard anyone say that I'm like extremely like too vulnerable, I feel like. My
Yeah.
friend yesterday was just like, ever a lot of people are feeling things that you feel. No
Yeah.
one's saying it though. So you're thinking you're the only one feeling it because you're the only one saying it. I'm like, well, I'm gonna be the only one who's saying it then. That's fine. I
Yes.
love it. So it's a long, long, long story. But that's kind of the path to what it is now. And yeah, so
I think, I mean, I love that story. I think that it's first of all, I mean, the fact that you decided to take what was a lot of
yeah,
pain and you
yeah,
really struggling and deciding I want to like help other people like me. I want to connect more through this is something that maybe you don't recognize is so powerful. Like not everyone seeks connection when they're in distress or seeks to
yeah,
help other people or seeks to make conditions better because they're in pain. And
yeah.
I think there's something to be said about you choosing that. I think secondly, there's something to be said about you were aligned in what you were meant to be doing. Like, I think that there's something to be said about the depression that happens before you start to do what you're supposed to be doing because you have to kind of completely shatter to be put back together. And
Mhm.
I think it's so lovely that you were able to find the right people to help you guide through that. But you were also looking out. You were also hardworking. You're also smart. You have the attributes to make this like tangible for yourself. The people along your way were guiding you, but it's so awesome that you decided, oh, let me create this beautiful space for people to come together and have like those real conversations. I mean, that's very similar to Interesting People of Earth of having
Mhm.
conversations that people are thinking, yeah, I'm the only one that's feeling this way. Mine is a bit more in terms of like social, cultural, like sort of like realizations and understanding. Like we're going through a
Yeah.
huge systemic change, and there's a vacuum for a
Yes.
lot of really meaningful conversations to um, pivot us towards where we feel like we all want to be going towards. And I think it's amazing that we're all playing our role in that, and you're playing your role very well of having these meaningful mental health conversations, especially in what I can assume for you, you feel the same way, a really saturated and shallow mental health social media space. And so that's kind of my second conversation for you of
Yes.
how do you interact with that and how do you feel about that? Like what does that um how does that inform the content that you make? And
Mm,
how do you feel when you see stuff on social media and you're like, we are not really talking about this stuff the way we should be?
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I have so much to say about this. But you know, interestingly enough, I feel like I used to be a little bit more on the side of not using social media in the healthy way I'm trying to lean more into now
Yeah.
because of the way I saw it working. Like I originally, when you get into anything, you can be a little bit like naive to understanding. And now I feel like I've been in it so long that I understand and I see. But I think I got into the space because I was feeling broken and I was feeling like I was mentally struggling. And I was using it as a way to kind of like find out about myself and express and share what I was learning just to help. But in the same time, I was like, I think sharing a bit when you're struggling a lot is maybe skewed versus when you're more healed.
Yeah.
And I think the industry that we're in, there's a lot of coaches, there's a lot of courses, there's a lot of like stuff in that world. And I, for a long time, I was doing more relationship coaching along with my podcast, but my content was just a lot of like stuff. I was trying to like funnel people into like coaching and doing all that stuff because I was like, I'm going to create a business out of this and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I hit this point where I was like, part of me was always not fully in it and not able to like jump the gun in a lot of ways with like the offers I was trying to create. And I think it was because I was like, I don't want to sell people through their weak points or like it just felt very bad to me. And a lot of the people that I was like watching how they were building their businesses, like I could tell the thing they were coaching on was oftentimes the thing that they were really struggling with. And that like a lot of times,
Absolutely.
sorry, that's like it's true. A lot of people that I
Sure.
see, like the things
Yeah.
that they're coaching on, I'm like, they're struggling with it. I actually feel like they learned a lot because they had to, but not necessarily because it's something they should be coaching on. And
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to change how my platform was because I I didn't want to I don't know, I didn't want to sell people things because I'm not a therapist and I'm not like licensed and I wanted to really hold the hearts of people safely the way that I would have needed when I was more vulnerable. And I just think there's just so much content. There's so much content about mental health. People are going to Instagram for things. They're going to ChatGPT. They're like using, those things instead of getting like, actually professional help. And I think just like that can become a problem. And I think another layer to it too is I felt like I used to use social media so much more when I had so much more shame. And it was like my way of like trying to find the answers through other people's stuff of like, what's wrong with me? How can I fix myself? And like not actually getting the real help. And so I ended up just changing my content completely from like trying to have it be coaching to sharing, like just sharing. And then people can take that or leave that and like resonate and find healing through shared experience and being less alone through hearing my podcast. I'm working on my Substack. And if I end up doing coaching one day, it'll be a container where I'm not helping people with their stuff. It's more going to be like, I'm helping you build a business or like something more tactical. So I'm not, I just think there's too many people trying to be in the healer space that, and it's not necessarily malintent. I just think that not
Yeah.
everyone's licensed, not everyone should be doing that. So
Yeah.
I've been really working on taking the role that I can to help that's feels healthy in the space, like
Yeah.
sharing versus trying to fix.
Yeah.
Hopefully that made sense. That was kind of long-winded, but lots of
That made
thoughts.
perfect sense to me. I mean, I think that that's a natural evolution of, and I definitely agree of the sentiment and what you shared of like people going to this coaching space and wanting to, you know, help other people probably came to it because they needed help themselves. And
Yeah.
then there's like this egoic place that you get with it where you're like, oh, I can save the world now. I'm so healed and I know what you need to do. And a lot of people don't realize that that's like a place to get stuck at. It's not the
Totally,
final place. And it's
totally.
commendable that you were able to like reflect as you were doing something to be like, wait, this isn't right for me. Like, I don't feel like this is right. I think a lot of people get stuck in that space. And
Yeah.
I agree. It's not with malintent a lot of times. Maybe very few within that ecosystem are doing it like knowingly. Um,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of people get stuck there because they're not able to reflect on that that's what's going on. And for you to say, to take a step back and be like, actually, like, what is the most effective way for me to do this, but also what is more aligned with what I'm more comfortable with. I do agree with you. I also talk about like some mental health stuff, and I always I make some videos here and there reiterating that I'm not an expert in this. Like I don't know, I don't have a degree. I'm just talking about my like what I'm like experiencing in the moment. And if you relate to this very niche specific experience, and that's amazing. But I do agree that there needs to be a very like careful like consideration and a responsibility that comes with having a platform that people listen to and how you frame yourself as an expert or not. And a lot of people, a lot more people than should do that. um, and
I
so
know.
I think all you can do is be reflective and be clear that we are not professionals. We are not giving professional advice. We are, you know, utilizing this medium to work through something out loud because this is the type of people that we are. And if
Yeah.
it resonates, that is
Totally.
amazing, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's good. And I think it's telling of your intentions that you were like, I want to be I want to do this the right way.
Yeah.
Instead of like, how do I just get money from this thing because I have a platform? And sometimes people just do it because they recognize that it'll be lucrative. And that's just the reality. And so I think that's amazing. I think that, you know, you having this long period of time, I mean, 7 years working on something and in the short period of time of me talking with you, it's clear that you have a good work ethic. Like, I don't know if you know this, but it's clear
Thank
that you have a good work ethic, or you're
you.
definitely like someone that goes for the things that they really want and you have clarity in your vision towards it. And you are like, this is how you need to do it. This is step A, step B, step, like you have that inner drive. But I can assume that spending 7 years on something is a lot. You've had a journey with it. And I would love to hear a bit more about yeah, the sort of ups and downs along the way, how, you know, how it actually evolved to be what it is today, which is something that it seems like you really run like a business. Like I see your posts, I see how you work, and I'm like, I know the work behind this, and she is on it, you know? So I want to hear a bit more about that, the business side of you and how
Yeah.
you grew into who you are today.
Totally. I want to touch on one of your points quick that was in my mind before I dive into that because I was like, I need to say this. But
Hmm.
what we were saying about how we're not like professionals, I always think about just like, um, I always am just like, I'm not anyone's guru. Like, I think if you're an artist, I'm
Yeah.
here to express, and that's something we have to get out. And then again, that's like what resonance is. And I just
Mhm.
think that I hope that the people that listen to this and the people that follow our content, it's more like
Mhm.
I always feel most like healing from finding connection to other people's experiences versus going somewhere for someone to tell me how to fix things.
Yeah.
Like that's what feels healing to me. So that's why I do it this way now. I just want to really lift other people's intuition up and not claim responsibility for like what their path is at all, like ever. Um, I want to like let other people lead their own journeys and just be a sounding board. So, um, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to
No,
say
I
that.
definitely agree with that sentiment of like it's I can't speak for your life. I can
Yeah.
only speak to the to my highest truth about my experience. And if
Yeah.
you see that as a good pathway to understand something that you're struggling with, I think that is amazing. That is the best that we can do. But I don't know if anyone can be like a tell me how to live my life. And I think that that's everyone should go on their own journey and discover what makes
Totally.
sense for them.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Okay. So my 7 year long journey, just kind of talking more about like what's kept me going.
What's kept you going? How you've evolved to this point? Has it always
Yeah.
been run like this, or did it grow into this?
Yeah, no, I started it was like very random. Like I think in the beginning I was like very like randomly posting. Like it was not
Mm.
organized, it was not good content. Like I'm sure the people who have had to brave those many first episodes with me were like, this girl is like they probably had to be very patient because like I didn't know how to do any of the technology. I was asking weird questions. Like I didn't know how to have any conversation. Like it was not good at all.
I get
So I'm
that.
so grateful people. It was like this is a mess. I think in the beginning I was just like throwing shit at the walls, like and seeing what sticks of like what kind of combos do I like. Like I remember I talked to a professional pole dancer in the beginning because I was like, that's a cool career. Like I was
Yeah.
just talking to like so many different types of people and I was just posting randomly. And I think I ended up taking like a year break during college when I transferred during my mental health crisis. I was like, I need a little bit of a break. And I also, during that time, was trying to write a book, which was a whole different. I was like, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to be an author now. Like, screw this podcast. So dumb. Not actually. We were trying. I was just in the back of the class, like trying to write a book, like failing in my classes. Um, and yeah, then I came back to it. I remember my mom being like, you shouldn't let it go completely because you've already built it and it's just like it's been there for you. And like even if you don't want it one day, like you should just keep it up a little bit because it's something you can always come back to and it's something you do go in and out of loving. So like I was like, you know what, you're right. So I ended up like taking a look again at it and I was like, oh yeah, like I do love this. I think I just felt disconnected with the way that I used to do it when in the beginning. Like I was like, I need to be more intentional with like posting with this and like whatever. And that then I started like going into like relationship coaching and like a lot of that was what my podcast was about. I was just I was finding a lot about myself through romantic relationships because they're such a mirror and so I was posting a lot about that. That was my like probably less healthier phase because I was struggling and posting and like I can help you and I could not. Um and then I kind of just kept doing interviews, kept doing my content, and then actually, and then things were changing during that to be more into self-development, just like normal. And then last year, actually, I was like, I need a whole rebrand. Like, I don't like this. It's too clinical. It's too, um, all of that. Like, it has a serious element to that, and it is self-development. I still have that on my page, but I'm trying to this year infuse more about me. Still need to do more about that.
Yeah.
Um, but having it be more sharing and thoughts I have versus like, here's how.
Yeah.
I'm still working through that. Um, but yeah, this year I, got new photos taken, like redid the branding. I just kind of redeveloped it. So I
Yeah.
feel like from any journey, like I haven't been consistently working so hard the whole time. I've been consistently figuring it out. And I think that when you can learn to consistently figure it out, consistently be messy, then like that's the only thing you can have control on is like I'm consistently doing something to grow.
Yeah.
And within that container, you're going to be many different things, and that's okay. Um, I think that's what consistency is. You can be consistently messy and
Yeah.
consistently figuring it out. And I
Yeah.
think that's what I did, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. And I'm going to evolve as many times as I need to within
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's all beautifully said. I mean, that's all you can do.
yeah,
I think it's so apparent to me from the outside looking in that you have a this is something like podcasting and your podcast is a relationship that you've evolved in how you relate to it. And
yeah,
so it makes sense that something that's lasted for so long for you has gone through an evolution as you've evolved.
yeah,
So I think it's so cool that you had the staying power. I mean, clearly you writing your book in the back of class, like you have a spirit in you that's always wanting to do something like creative and from your heart and that you want to put that out, like you, it was just a matter of finding the format for you that not just makes sense but also like works with your bandwidth and what makes like really like the more authentic way for you to express it. I mean, I definitely relate to that. I've always looked to writing and I thought that writing would be the avenue for me to be able to express myself to the fullest, and it's turned out that it's talking. So, I mean, there's
I also think writing, people who are great writers, I also think are great talkers. It's just like, or like great like thinkers, like
thinkers. It's definitely
speakers, like
thinking, like they're both thinking, but I think
yes.
we thought, okay, if I just write it out, that's the creative outlet that's gonna like who really
Yeah.
makes money talking? Like it's not a job that you like really like apply to, but you can definitely be a writer. So I think that's maybe where
Yeah.
the logic was
No,
for us, for me at least.
100%. I know.
Yeah.
I'm
I
trying
mean,
to
who
write more too. We're
yeah,
trying, but I'm like, this is definitely like, I don't know, the thing.
more natural, I think too. I mean, it's more for me, I can speak for myself. It's more of I don't know, for writing there's like such a delay in like the output and the and I feel like the efficacy and it's so refined. Like I think there's something to be said about like just saying it versus like
Yeah.
writing it and re-editing it and getting to the point where it's like perfectly what it
Yes.
needs to like, and I'm like I can do that without having to do all the rewrites and just have it like from the chest through my voice, you know, in a way that writing would require just so much
Editing and
editing and reframing and like and just there's a lot of, and I'm like, okay, we can skip all that and just talk, you know. So I think there's definitely a space for that. I mean, who would have thunk when you even started that podcasting would get to the popularity and the I don't know, I mean, I can you can speak more on that. Where was podcasting when you started and where how have you seen it, you know, evolve? Yeah.
um, yeah, it was like kind of a thing. Like it's so much more saturated now. It was like it was starting to ramp up, but I was definitely like in the earlier-ish
Yeah.
portion of it, like before it got like so that was actually really interesting. When I think about like how like we would never hear about people who being like bloggers and being like big bloggers. I feel like if you became a blogger now, I don't I don't think anyone even like I think people are so like into Substack right now and like that'll probably change. Like I don't even
Yeah.
know like who's reading blogs, but like the people who started that in the beginning are like still hit blogs and they're like I'm a blogger and you're like wait, what?
Yeah.
And so I think you're like I think that I would not start a podcast now unless I had a platform like you do where like people have already developed a relationship with me and like want to go find more content on me. I think then when I was literally no one and I didn't have a platform and I didn't know how to use Instagram. Like I was in the earlier days of it. So I feel like I did the opposite as you. Like I started as no platform and grew it with me.
Hmm.
Or I think people can also just like grow themselves and then start a podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely like didn't I started with no social media versus starting with it, which is I think backwards, but I think it makes sense for the time when I started like over 7 years ago. Like it was nothing
There's no
like
TikTok to get like a wide, like I feel like, you know, TikTok enables
yeah.
you because of the algorithm to capture a wider audience than like Instagram back then. Like to capture a wide audience, you had to be like really attractive or really rich or like be like surgery level attractiveness or be famous. And so it
Yeah,
was it's
absolutely.
and in terms of what you're trying to do and the conversations you're trying to have, I don't know if like the world was more as primed for it back then either. So you were not
Yeah.
really on Reels. Did Reels even exist 7 years ago?
No, I remember I started an I like remember taking a selfie for my first Instagram and just like posting it. And I was like, and just like on the Instagram app, I just straight up just like did it. And I remember actually I had a conversation in one of my early days with like the guy who was one of the founders of content on Instagram, like one of the founding posting people. Like he was one of, they did like a test run with like, I feel like 20, 30 people and he was one of those first people. Now he's like very big on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
um and I yeah, so like it was like the day I was like I feel old. I'm like the days were different, like it
Back in my
my
day.
voice was definitely like able to cut through more back then because of the content and because of it just not being nearly as saturated, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say, give yourself credit. You built it organically from scratch. Like, I think you do have a sizable following. You do have, you know,
Mm,
people that like watch you and are interested in what you have to say. So there's definitely a testament to that. That's building something real and tangible. And so that's why I find it so interesting to hear your process and your journey, because I think it also really showcases the type of person that you are. And I want
mm.
to, take a step back or a step, I don't
Step
know if
forward.
it's back or in, but talk about mental health more
Mhm.
specifically,
Yeah.
your mental health more specifically, because I feel like I'm hearing you from the outside looking in, and I'm like, she's got it. Like, she's so on top of things. She seems like she knows what she needs to do and she's going immediately for it. I admire and recognize that. But as someone who's also high functioning but also struggles with their mental health, I understand that it's not always how it presents on the outside looking in. So
Yeah.
I want to talk about
Right.
how you would deal with that. How have you, as someone who has a podcast that talks about mental health, and through that podcast is exploring their own sort of journey and process with that, but also, keeping up with everything that you have to do. I assume the podcast is not the only way that that you're doing stuff. So we can definitely talk more on that. How do you keep it all together while also being someone that's the spokesperson, kind of in a way, for something that we all struggle with? Let's be real. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, oh my gosh. I think that I feel comfortable sharing it because like I am in it and like I feel like I'm not talking about something that I don't understand every single day, that I haven't understood my whole life. And I think that's what makes me feel more comfortable sharing it because it's not like I haven't walked in the shoes. And those are the people that I trust most because they're not talking from like anything but lived experience, and lived experience is so strong. I'm gonna give a little background about it maybe because it's
Feel
like different.
comfortable. Yeah.
It's different now than it used to be. I think I always was a very anxious kid. I was really socially anxious in high school, and then when I went to New York, that was my first like extreme wave of depression. Um, and then from then on, like depression just has really stuck with me. Um, I feel like in the beginning, when you're struggling with mental health and you don't know yourself in it, you just kind of are like experiencing it and just trying to cope randomly. Like, I didn't really know how to be with it. I just knew that I was like struggling so hard. Like, I had so
Yeah.
many, like, I was just reacting. And New York was really hard because, like, I wasn't eating. I, like, lost tons of weight. I was, um, like I have so many sad memories of just like my friend. Like I remember I was like in the dorm shower and I was just like crying. She'd like bring me out of the shower and like
Mhm.
clothe me and like put me to bed, and like I just had I was it was so hard, and I just like didn't I was just so depressed. I was like walking the streets of New York just like crying, just constantly like feeling really struggling. And I think what helped like and get me to where I am now is I was like, I need to like find a way to like get support and like to
Yeah.
find tools outside of me and within myself that I can sustain. So I got into therapy. I am on medication. That's not going to work for everyone, but it has like immensely helped me. Um, and then I also like I've been in therapy for so many years, and I've like switched therapists as I've learned more about what I need and what kind of therapist I need and all that. And now I feel like I sit in a place where I think I know myself, I know what depression looks like for me. I know what's going to spike it. I know what's going to help it. I know where I feel more anxious, and I know when I feel better. And I think that I've just taken such a deep journey of self-awareness by being like, I'm going to learn how to be there for myself and learn what support helps me. And I think what helps me now is just like I have my systems in place and I have a good level of self-awareness of understanding what's gonna make me spiral, and what's I'm not as reactionary now because I know it. And I think
Yeah.
when I know it, I'm less scared, which also makes things less intense is that when I feel hard feelings, I'm not so afraid, but I do struggle and I have times where I get like depressed and I like have a few days of like shut down and um I think I'm high functioning for sure and I think I'm able to be more high functioning because I have so many systems in place. Like I have really good support in friends and family. I have a therapist. I am on medication. I have good coping skills. I move my body. You know, I eat generally pretty well. It's taken a long time to do that. And I'm still working on it and I still have more ways that I need to work on, the way that I exist in this world. But for the most part, I think that mental health can feel so scary and like your world's ending, like you're never going to be okay. And it's just because you don't know how to be with it yet. And it's like grieving the fact that I am a person who struggles and I might always have that a bit. I am neurodivergent. I am these things. And because of that, I have to find a way to support myself. So I think it's just been learning to decide to be there for myself through everything and just redevelop those structures which make you want to be here, which make you want to keep going because you're not reacting so much anymore. You have real structures that support you in your life, and those feel like my foundation now to lean on my hard days and that keep me going for more good days than bad. So I know that was like kind of vulnerable and a lot, but I hope to do that so people feel less crazy and less alone. So
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think that's part of your your process too. I can tell with you process your emotions like dynamically, and as someone who processes their emotions verbally, I understand someone who needs a form of outlet to kind of understand themselves. And so I think it's amazing that you're able to be vulnerable and to allow your process to happen. I really um, resonate with what you're saying of building systems in place, like recognizing what you're working with. I think we talked about this of like, it's
yeah.
harder for people to recognize that you have a chronic illness when it's mental. And when you have a chronic illness that's physical, you know that you have to adjust your lifestyle, you have to change certain things to make sure that you don't have flare ups. You recognize that you need to handle yourself with that level of care. I don't think many of us really understand that that's same with mental health. Getting to a place where you accept the fact that this is what I'm working with. I have to handle myself with care. I have to have these systems in place to make sure that I'm okay. I know that this is something I'll always struggle with, and um, to take that responsibility for yourself and to say that I want to do this is also like, I think that's the entrepreneurial sort of dynamic spirit in you of like I
Yeah.
I'm gonna do something about it. Like we need to figure this out. We need to work through this. Is all you can do. And I think that it makes sense. And it's good that you're the sort of role model for that conversation of like, I'm in it with you too. That's why I am having this conversation from my lived experience of going through it. And same here with some of my content. I'm just talking about the things that I'm currently having a eureka moment about. Um, and that's
Yes.
because sometimes I'm even just talking to myself. I'm talking to myself to remind myself of certain things, and it's it's really important. I think that we have these types of conversations from um, a place where it doesn't have to present a certain form. I think what's beautiful about technology like this and having something like a podcast or being able to share your opinion, although it can be problematic, is the low barrier of entry allows for a certain depth and a certain nuance and a certain
Yeah.
truth to conversations that filtration doesn't. And so when you see like the bigger people in this sort of space that aren't really qualified but are using this to make ends meet or to survive with this capitalist world that we live in, it really reads as disingenuous because you're like, there's no, this cannot be the form in which these conversations, must exist. I think it makes more sense coming from the you and me talking through it, with each other, and um, really talking about not the rosy sides of it, not the beautiful, light, fluffy parts of it, but the parts of like I struggle and I need to like manage that because I'm a human being and I recognize that and I'm working on it and I have a great support system and I know that there's things about my life that I need to ensure are good so that I can be healthy because I recognize this. And it's maybe not the sexiest way to approach these topics that people really want to pedestalize, but it's real. And
Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah, I'm processing everything real time. I learn things. I talk on them as I'm going through them, like not even when they're fully formed, just like I'm just processing. Like
Yeah.
yeah, and I think what you're saying about like foundations, I think it's that's something I'm really learning. It's like I think when you feel like your world is spiraling and you are like struggling so much with mental health, and that you feel like the world is collapsing, it's because not that it is, but it's like it's you don't building that foundation takes time of like where you're getting support from and like what you know about yourself and like
Yeah.
just for anyone who's feeling like so hopeless, it's like I know how that feels and it's not forever. It just takes time to understand yourself and to grieve the fact that maybe your experience isn't gonna be completely neurotypical and that, you're gonna have to build those things. They will support you, and when you build them and when you learn about yourself and have that foundation,
Hmm.
you will start being able to see the gifts of it and start seeing that like it's not just crumbling and whatever because now you have that support. It's also so many gifts. I think when you struggle, I go to the people that struggle. I don't go to the people who have never struggled. I go to the people who have struggled for my wisdom, for my support. I go to
Hmm.
people like that from the complex understanding I look for. I go to those people for so much, and you become like a light and a connector in ways that I think a lot of people haven't struggled as much or do live more pretty lives. I used to be very envious of those people, and sometimes I do find moments of feeling really envious of people who haven't had, the mental health, not health struggles. And I know a lot of people keep it inside, so I don't really know no one's life is perfect, and I know that, but I
Yeah.
do know some people that I'm like, I know for for a near fact that like it hasn't been the same. And I think those that's fine. I just think that people who struggle, like those are people that I feel connected to, and those are people that are like do so much light in the world because they've seen like the dark sides and within themselves, and um there is beauty in it. And there I think that you can become something really wonderful and great, even more so than not struggling. And you will find that it just you kind of have to keep going and pushing through those beginning parts, which are the hardest, but they're not forever, ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where my more like social, political, social, cultural, this is not how things
It
should be part of me that's like,
was me.
what is neurotypical anyways? What is
I
normal?
know, right?
And I think it's, and this is where I definitely agree with you on like, there's, this foundation that comes from this grief of like, I'm not gonna be someone that exists in this world in a way that I was taught and told
Lots.
that it was gonna
Yeah.
be, you know? And you initially like feel a lot of different emotions, including like, sadness and shame and anger, of all these things of like, this is not how I'm going to experience the world. But then through the journey, and I mean, you can definitely let me know if I'm wrong in the sentiment, but you then start to understand like there is a kind of like edge that you get because
Mhm.
you've been through something and you think about things differently, you've experienced the world at a depth and at a perspective that people that are quote unquote never had to face this can't
Yeah.
can't access. And I would trade for this every single time. I mean, I also wanted to go back really quickly on you saying like you had to develop these systems to get to this place where you
Mhm.
you could manage it. Um,
Yeah.
and I was talking about it a few days ago in a video of like capacity, like this idea of like therapy helps you build your capacity to manage and um to
Mhm.
work through things and to build yourself up in that way. Had you not struggled with your mental health, you wouldn't have gone into the space of like building capacity, making you more emotionally intelligent, more attuned, more aware,
Yeah.
more mindful, more perceptive than
Mhm.
you would have otherwise. And I think that everybody could work on their capacity, but not everyone feels the need and the pressure and the stress and the angst to do so. And so
Yeah.
I, over time, have come to understand, to see it as like, you know, the inevitable sacrifice that comes with gaining this perspective and seeing the world and attuning to it from this level, because I wouldn't have gotten it otherwise. I wouldn't have been able to and yeah, it comes with the trade-off of quite a lot of pain and grief, and it's you have to mourn something, but I think, and this is the social political, social cultural piece of me, I think we're all mourning and grieving the world as we thought that it was gonna be.
100%. Totally. And when you're saying like what is neurotypical, I'm like, I don't even know because I do think we're all so different. I
Yeah.
think maybe I'm like, is it a neurotypical brain or is it a neurotypical model? Is it a societal model? Like that we think that there's some person that is
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
isn't actually it's just like I think it's more when I think of like neurotypical, I don't even I more just think of like a regular life and societal norms and a certain brain that gets through
Mhm.
things easier. Maybe we all are neurocomplex. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Um, all I know is that like there are times when I feel different than what I think I should society's like, norms. Like I feel different than that, or I sometimes feel
Yeah.
different than how other people display to be, but maybe they're not feeling inside. I do not know.
I think the
Um,
trick is that
but
some people hide better than others, I've come to understand.
yeah,
It's not that people
can't
are
hide it over here.
all like some people are just really better at masking than I have been.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
And that I cannot mask. But yeah, I think we all are grieving a lot. Like obviously the world has been on fire in so many ways in these last years. And I also think like I even look my parents' generation is just so different. They like my parents didn't have language for mental health. Like my mom was saying, I just had her on my podcast, which
I
you
saw.
commented on. But she was just like, yeah, like I'm realizing times where I felt anxiety, depression, but I didn't know what that was. Like I didn't know how to put language to that. And like my mom's always like, your generation is so expressive and talking about things and all this stuff. And it's just like, it's very different. But I think that I still look to that generation a bit because that's been almost the model of what I've looked to of like being more staying in the same job and
Mhm.
being more, secure and not talking about these things. And I think our generation has been talking so much more and also just because of the way that the world has been like I think we're like blowing shit up and we're like we got to talk about this like it's a mess and people are struggling more because of it and there's so much
Yeah.
that's such a long conversation but
No, but
um
I feel like, I mean, there's something to be said too about how that generation was a model. I think it's also
yeah.
super cute. I saw the video with your mom. I think it's a very beautiful moment. I think too that like it's because I think people always frame it like, oh, this generation talks so much about mental health, and so they must be so weak with their mental health because they're so vocal and they're so like they allow it to um, factor into making decisions and to living life. And my sort of sense of that is like it's not that the people older than us, like your parents' generation, were better at handling their mental health or that they were able to just manage things. They were just maybe like addicts. A lot of people were just behind the scenes struggling in other ways that were destructive to their lives, not just addictions, but like maybe there was a lot more going on behind the scenes so that people could keep things even keel. Being able to talk about things openly and then working through it so that your life is actually better is to me more strength actually than just saying, well, I'm just going to ignore this really awful toxic thing about me, or that I have poor mental health, and then just like pour it out on all the people that I love and traumatize them. um, and then say, well, I'm fine though, like everything's fine. It's like,
yeah
um
totally
I don't know
yeah
if everyone was okay.
no definitely not so yeah it's different. I think what you were saying about how grieving the way that we thought we'd be, the way that we thought the world would be, like I just think
Yeah.
that's so real. And I think that I've definitely grieved. I'm not going to experience things maybe the way my parents did or way that I thought that I would or the way that I was sold of how my life is gonna go and how I was gonna be through it, and I
Yeah.
think, um, once you go through that grieving, which is necessary because 'cause you'll have a lot of feelings about it, and sometimes that can color your experience, I think that you can kind of open yourself up to a new life and a new way of being and yourself through it, and hopefully that kind of paints the way for people like you and next generations to come of how you heal and how you, um, walk your journey, even if
Yeah.
different what you
Yeah.
expected, so
Yeah, I agree. And I think there is something net positive, even though there's a lot of problematic stuff that comes with people framing everything in terms of mental health, and obviously with therapy speak being utilized to sort of like enable more selfish behaviors or whatever it may be. I think I will still say that there's a net positive in openly talking about and sharing the fact that we're
yeah,
not okay, so that people can connect more and not feel so much more isolated. And I don't think that people in the past were honest with themselves, even maybe of the need to connect differently. And we are lucky in the sense that we get to live in a world where we can open and we can open and question and have those conversations, but also we have the tools and the resources and the spaces to really have these conversations so that we can process things healthier. Because I feel like everywhere I see, there's conversations on people wanting to break generational curses or feeling they're the ones breaking generational curses. It's like, yes, because we recognize that if we're not having these conversations and bringing these things out to light into the open, then we're not going to heal it, so that like it's not really even just for us. We're creating a
yeah,
new world, and it's going to be birthed through the next generation. And so in order for that to happen, we need to be like, it's going to be looked at, I think, in hindsight, at like, oh, this was a great moment of like emotional, psychological, and mental exploration that rippled effect through the future time, because people didn't have kids that they continued to traumatize. People didn't continue to have relationships where it was based in a foundation of insecurity and fear, because they were not just partnering at 22 and thinking that they had to start their lives. We can choose much more mindfully and consciously. I bet that's going to make a huge difference, not automatically, not maybe even in the next 10, 15 years, but it will be shown through the people that come into this world after us. um,
yeah,
and so I think that there's, but it's a messy process. It's like anything that is left to the public to kind of manage is it's a it's a it's going to be confused and convoluted. But I have faith, and maybe this is the optimist in me, that it will even itself out and resolve itself for the better. I believe in the marketplace of ideas. Maybe it's, I'm naive for that the truth will
mhm,
always surface out. um
yeah,
but I think it's I think it's really awesome, and I really respect and look up to what you've built and the conversations that you've continued to have. I think that there is really a need for that, and I do love. I mean, the fact that you reached out to me and you saw me as someone that you wanted to have a conversation with, I am eternally grateful for. Because I see in a way like you're seeing me before. I feel grateful that someone that I feel like is at your caliber and is doing the work that you're doing, is seeing me and say, yeah, I want to talk to this person. This person, adds valuable insight. You speaking so much goodness into me, and you don't even have to. It's just a testament to what, like the core and the authenticity of what you're building. Like you are really about what you're saying and what you're doing. Like you are the type of person that you're showcasing online.
oh,
And
so
so I love that. And I guess, to round everything up and to leave people with a sense
mhm,
of, um, leaving people with a sense of what you want them to take away, not just of you, but of like what you're trying to bring to this world, what you're hoping that your podcast uh,
yeah.
provides. Like, what would you really want to, and make it as long as you want, like really, really like express what you're trying to, or like where you're at with it. Obviously, you're going to continue to grow with it, but
Mhm.
what do you want people to leave with when when they think Deep Talk Pop, when they think Madison, when they
Mm.
think, yeah, yeah.
Mm. My gosh. So many things, but I think um I think the main thing, well, okay, two things. One, it's that we need each other and meaningful conversations are incredibly important and that you should um never remain alone in what you're going through, like to ask for support, to have conversations. There are people, even if they're not walking in your exact shoes, are walking a different parallel of what you're experiencing or have experienced those emotions you feel. And if they're not people in your life that are, you know, experiencing what you're experiencing, that's the thing for my podcast and for yours is just like finding people that you see yourself in and knowing you're not alone and like listening to that content
Mhm.
with your own integrity and like responsibility to not take everything they're saying word for word for what you should do and like
Yeah,
heightening your own intuition
yeah.
always. So I think one, just like connection and meaningful conversation and vulnerability is
Mhm.
massively healing and massively important and life changing. And to do it more often when you're struggling, especially just like sometimes I want to isolate, but it's like knowing you're not alone is so important. Um, and then the second is that the self awareness and development journey, when you're doing it for, I feel, the right reasons, not just to like become a coach online and what if that's what you want to do, great. But I think using the self development journey to be able to do what you're here for. The more you know yourself, that's why I talk a lot about like just things in the world of self-awareness and development,
Mhm.
not to be catchy or cool, but it's because the more you know yourself, the more you learn yourself, the
Mhm.
more you can support yourself, the more you can support your mental health, the more you can like be there for yourself, and the more you can do what you're meant to do in this world. Because I think we all have an immense purpose in not only what we're meant to do, but also like being with your insides and understanding them and healing them and whatever is like impacting everyone around you so incredibly more than you realize. Like how you approach your insides is makes you impact other people positively, makes you change things generationally, like things like impacting one person helps them impact
Yeah,
another person and like
yeah.
doing your inner work makes your life so much better. And sets you up for so much more happiness and it also it impacts everybody else. So I think that like my podcast just being self-development and meaningful conversations, it's just like do what you're here for and do it with support and do it with love. Yeah.
Amazing. So, I mean, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. Thank you so much for um, being someone that's in my life. Like, thank you so much. Um, yeah, I feel very lucky to align with you, to be aligning with you. And for anyone that's listening, if you want to follow Madison, Deep Talk Pod on Instagram, I will also put more of her details in the show notes. But thank you so much for sitting with us today. I know it's earlier for you, so I will let you go on with your day.
So good to get up early and get my day started and just know like I resonate with everything that you put out and like that
Thank
resonance
you.
of you like shining your light made me go, yes. And that's the work that you do. So
Thank you. Thank
yeah.
you. Same to you. Same to you. Yeah, hope you have an awesome one. And thank you everyone for listening to Interesting People of Earth. Until next time.